what do we take into account when we're kind of establishing a value for your vehicle? You know, when we're trading in a car, we're looking at a trade-in. There's a lot of things we take into account. One being obviously the physical condition of the car. That's an important one. You know, we're going to always ask you a series of questions about the car, because really it's not necessarily it's really to learn more about what you have. We're kind of investing in your car, and so the only, you know, when you make a good investment, you got to ask a lot of questions because you got to understand what you're kind of getting yourself into. So, important part of our process is asking the right questions, and so we've come up with a set of questions that we believe over time have helped us make sure we understand your car, and that more importantly, we don't miss anything on your car. And so we really stick to a series of questions that our sales professionals or our sales managers will ask the client about their particular car that really helps us, you know, examples of, do you have both sets of keys? I mean, in 2019 or today's age, you know, my dad probably didn't ask that question back in the day because keys were like 20 bucks and wasn't a big deal. They're like $300 now, a key. And so they're really changed the game. So that's an important question that we've kind of asked today to make sure that we have two keys, because we know that next customer that buys that car needs two keys. And so, you know, if you have that second key, to us, the value just went up because that's $300 less or $400 or whatever the key costs that we don't have to spend on that car. So we can give that value to you. So that's an example. You know, Carfaxes, everybody hears the word Carfax. There's also another company called AutoCheck that does background history reports on cars. You know, everything we're looking for in Carfaxes is accidents, whether it be minor, moderate or major, or severe. There's different ways they rate accidents. Severe is going to give you a lot less money for your car than a minor. You know, everybody's had the shopping cart in the parking lot where they've, you know, dented the car. Maybe they backed into maybe something in their driveway. You know, those generally are minor accidents, which would Carfax, and we would say is about $500 or less damage. But when you get into severe, which may be airbag deployment, a severe accident, God forbid, that really can depreciate at $4,000 to $5,000. And so Carfax really, you know, explains that stuff tough to us when we pull a Carfax. So we're going to pull a Carfax vehicle history report on every vehicle, and we're going to go through it, and we're going to show you that. You know, there's other things on there being prior rental car can make a difference. You know, Carfax actually delineates whether it was a rental car at some point in your history. Maybe you bought it used as a rental car and now you're trading it back in. That can delineate the value a little bit because of, you know, we all know rental cars and how they're treated to a degree. So it does make a difference. One owner makes a big difference. If we know you're the only owner of that vehicle, we know that once we ask these questions and walk around the vehicle, we know the whole story. We don't need to know the prior history because you're the only history it has. So one owner makes a difference. Obviously, it has no accidents. It's increase in value, no doubt about it. So those are important things. Flood, was it in a flood area? You know, was it in a certain part of the country that maybe had a flood at one point? The timing was things. So we got to be able to understand that stuff. So, you know, all those little things go into what we believe the value of a car is. And good news is we can print all this stuff out and walk you through it. We can show you what we're looking at. And that's what we want to be, is real transparent in our process as far as our trade-in appraisals. So those are things we go through. The tools in our business that we use to appraise, I would say most dealerships today, whether it be a new car, used car store, you know, the CarMaxes, the Carvanas, all the, you know, retailers out there probably use about the same tools. We're all using the same books. We're all using the same software to really come about our values. Softwares like Kelley Blue Book, Black Book, NADA, vAuto is a software that we use that really helps us analyze the market. It's really analyzing real-time market to say, hey, what are the auctions selling for? You know, Manheim's the biggest auction house in the country. We can see Manheim data on a week-to-week basis. If that car sold 2 days ago in the lane in Manheim, Atlanta, I know exactly what it sold for. So it really gives me a real-time value from a wholesale perspective of what your car's worth. So, you know, Kelley Blue Book's the one we focus on because I believe the consumer focuses on Kelley more than anything. I think Kelley Blue Book focuses on the consumer more. It's going to lean towards the consumer. So my thought is, well, if you're going to pick a book, use Kelley Blue Book because you're more familiar with it as a consumer. You've probably already looked at it since before you came here, so you're familiar with the numbers they use. And I think it's probably the fairest book out there. It's more transparent. It makes sure it adds in every little element to that car. They're really good on their ads as far as, if your car has this equipment or your car has that equipment, they really take that into consideration and give you value for it. So to me, we really lean heavy on KBB as a company, Kelley Blue Book, as far as how we kind of determine your value. We obviously look at real-time market data through vAuto, a software we use, and we walk you through that process too. Like I said, our goal is to be totally transparent. The one thing that we instituted that is a little different, I would say, that I don't work at other dealerships, but I would think most stores don't do, because I asked a lot of stores if they did it and they said no, is I want my sales manager or the manager in that deal riding with you in your car. To do the test drive. I think it's important. I think it's an important way for us to capture the story. The best way we can give you the most money is for us to be able to understand who your car really is. We have conversations about names on cars. You spend a lot of time in your car, and so to me, it's important for our managers to ride with the customer on the test drive of your vehicle to make sure we have every bit of data that we can to make sure we can give you the most money for it. So that's something unique we do. It may drive you crazy. Some people probably maybe don't like it, but to me, if we're going to invest in that thing as a dealer, as an owner, I want to make sure that we're riding with the customer and we gather all that information possible in that 5 to 10 minute test drive that we're going to do. Put that car through. We want that customer in the seat with us, and so that's a little something different that we add that I think helps. I really do. I think it helps drive the value so that we don't miss one. The trade-ins nowadays are more important than anything, and so my goal is, hey, we can't miss a trade. We cannot maybe miss this piece of critical information that adds another $500, $1,000 to your value of your vehicle because we didn't do our job, because we didn't ask the right questions and we didn't ride along with the customer to find out. So those two things that we're going to make sure we do on our end. The question came up about, does it really matter how you take care of your car or what you do with your car while you have it? Absolutely, it does. If you're one of those, you have some people that are meticulous and they're going to keep the service records of their vehicle. They're going to keep it in the little book that the manufacturer gives you, and they're going to document every time they get that vehicle serviced. They're going to get it signed off. They're going to document everything they do in that service. And all the preventative maintenance you do that maybe you don't want to, this is when it comes back to pay off, because there's no doubt we can give you more value for that vehicle. It's because we have that information to tell the next customer. If we didn't have those books and we didn't have that data and we didn't have those records that are so clean and shows exactly what we did to the car, then we can't share that with the next customer to be able to say, hey, this car is worth more than the one down the street that doesn't have those records. Because at the end of the day, that's what they're betting on. They're betting on a used car. They don't really know what they're getting. And for the next customer to have that data and to be able to have that information to lean on, it increases the value. There's no doubt about it. So just know, I know it's tedious and I know it's probably, some people it comes natural and some people maybe it doesn't. But just know when you track those records and then you spend that money in the service department to take care of that car and upkeep that car, whether it's oil changes and transmission services and coolant services and brake fluid services and replacing tires and windshields and getting dings fixed and timing belts and all these stuff that we consider maintenance, that totally holds value and increases value whenever you come back to market on that car. So don't give up on that. Please keep it. That is important information that when we ask our questions will come up, whether you have or not. We love it when you're a customer of ours because we have those records in our system. We love to have the books, but also having the records in our system makes our job easy for the next go round. So, don't think that, we're just going to run this car until it has no tires left and the brakes are worn out and the windshield's cracked and we've never serviced the battery. The car that comes in that has done all those things, there's no doubt their value is going to be more and we're going to be able to give them more for their vehicle at that time. So it's really, I just thought that was a critical piece that we need to explain. So in reality, today's world, the internet has changed our business greatly. And one of the things it's really opened us up to is what we call sight unseen trade appraisals. And so if you live 3 hours away and you're interested in a vehicle that we have, which happens regularly because we do sell luxury vehicles, and so our geographic region is wider than just Mobile, then a lot of times they're like, well, I have a trade-in. And so what happens is we do what we call a sight unseen trade. We can put a ballpark number on a car because nowadays with technology, thank goodness, we can obviously get your VIN number. We can get pictures. We can get you to text us pictures of your vehicle. If there's issues with your vehicle, you can text scratches. You can text, even tire tread depth. We can teach you how to take pictures of the tire tread depth so we know exactly what your tires are. So now with technology and due to the way the world's changed and the internet, we're really able to get closer than we ever have on sight unseen appraisals. Now, I will say we always are very careful on sight unseen because I tell our people, start lower. If anything, we're going to go up when the car gets here, but I don't want to have to go down necessarily because one of the things that will happen in sight unseen appraisals that I would say is a negative in our industry is people are quick to tell you, I'll give you X for your vehicle just to get you over there. But then when you get there and they do the physical inspection and they do the physical appraisal, all of a sudden they start dinging you 500,000 here, 500 here, 1,000 here, and then it becomes a really ugly situation. And it's kind of I wouldn't want to use the word trick, but I have seen it in industry where it is a matter of getting people in the dealership. And so I tell our folks that when we do a sight unseen appraisal that we're real clear that this is a sight unseen appraisal and we're gonna shoot lower than we think until the car physically gets here so that we don't have the situation of, hey, now the car here, we told you it was this, but then we're going to have to take this, and this off. We're going to try to get as much information as possible, but the beauty is we can. We have cell phones today. We have cameras that are better cameras on our phones than I'm probably talking into right now. And so it's crazy the amount of information we can get pretty close on a sight unseen appraisal. So don't let that stop you. It's something that all our people know how to do, but it is a little bit of a process that we want to explain and make sure everybody's aware of what that looks like. So it's certainly an option. We do it all the time, but we try to be conservative on the front end so that when you get here, that we're not having to back up and it becomes a negative experience because that's not what we want and that's not what you want and that's not what creates a great relationship. So that is kind of a little bit about our sight unseen appraisal. So if you're looking to trade your car in the next 6 months, I think one of the key things is you got to know where you are mileage-wise. You hear these things. If you're at 75,000 miles right now and you drive 20,000 miles a year, I think you really need to watch your miles because that car will be worth more now than it is when it clicks over 80. And the reason is because banks and financing, most people when we resell your car after we trade it in, most people that buy that car are going to need some sort of financing arranged. And so when that car, if we have that car and it's got 78,000 miles on it versus 82, there's a value difference for us because we're able to get that car financed easier than we will with 82,000 miles. So that's a little trick in there that just to keep in mind if that's where you are. So I think understanding where your miles are, if you're at 98,000 miles and you're going to be over 100,000 miles in the next 6 months, I would seriously consider getting a trade appraisal now versus waiting to 102 because I think there'll be some money. I know you'll get more, obviously you'll get more value the sooner you trade it in, but there'll be a little substantial more value due to the mileage constraints over 100,000 miles. I think going through and making sure you're up to date on all your records and making sure that you have done the necessary preventative maintenance. So when you come in to do a trade appraisal, you're prepared. Things like my second key. God, it's been in a drawer in the back of the house. I don't know where that thing is, or my daughter had it, or something. Make sure you locate those things. But it sounds simple and silly and stupid, but I'm telling you, it's money, it's value, and so just things like that. I always think it's worth getting a value now, and then maybe saying, what do you see potentially the value being in 6 months? I think cars depreciate anywhere from 1 to 2% a month, something like that. And so it's going to vary per make, model, trim level, all those kind of things. So take that with a grain of salt to a point. But that's kind of an indicator that can help you prepare what am I risking losing waiting 6 months as opposed to now? So at the end of the day, you also got to figure out what the other side of the coin is. What do you want to do with your car? The good news about us is we're always looking to purchase cars, so I'm not concerned necessarily about what you're buying next. I am looking for purchase cars every day, all day. So I'm always interested in appraising cars and purchasing cars. So it's never too soon to let us have an opportunity to look at it. To me, I always tell people, and I tell friends this, and anybody that asks me, it doesn't cost you anything for us to tell you a value. And at least you know that we'll tell you what we pay for it right now. And that check's good, and it comes real fast. And so there's not a lot of headaches with it. I talk to people all the time about, should I sell my car myself or trade it in? I think a lot of it comes down to preference. The thing we offer is convenience. There's no doubt about it, which is what the world offers. I mean, the reason you go to the Quick Lube over there around your corner is because it's convenient, not because it's $29.99 for the oil change. It's probably because it's on your way to work and then gets you out in 7 or 8 minutes and it's convenient. You're not really concerned about whether it's $29 or $39 or $49 oil change. So in a trade-in process, that's what we offer, is convenience. You're not having to, when you do a private party, you've got to go list it on these third-party sites. Well, you got to go take 20 pictures, and you got to upload in the computer, and then you got to write a description, and you got to, field these phone calls of people asking you questions, and people saying, hey, can you take a deposit? Can you, and you don't know these people. They might come to your house while you're not there. You may want to meet them off-site, which takes time. So it's totally about time. And if you have plenty of time and you're not worried about convenience, hey, it potentially is a great option for you. Again, will you get a little more money? Probably. I think all the books tell you will. And so I think you can ask a little more money for it. But it comes down to time and convenience. And I think that's what we offered best. The second little thing that not everybody realizes that does is you do get a sales tax credit when you trade in a car and buy another one. So what that means is you only pay sales tax on the difference between the sale price of the vehicle you're buying and the amount of money we give you for your trade-in. So if you have a $30,000 trade-in and you're buying a $60,000 car, you're only paying sales tax on $30,000, which is 4.75% of that $30,000 can be a pretty sizable amount of money. So certainly something to make sure you understand. So really, if we give you X, we're really giving you Y because you're getting the sales tax difference. So when you don't do that, you don't do this every day. I mean, the average ownership of a car is 11 and a half years now. So, it's like me buying a house. I don't buy a house every day. So when I buy a house, I forget all these little things that come into it. So our job is to educate you on this stuff and make sure you're aware of these little things. So to me, the sales tax issue is something that maybe you forget when the last time you bought a car that comes into play and that you kind of don't take into account. So it's important. It is an important little nugget that can make a difference when you're trading a car that maybe gets you a little closer between the gap of private party value and trade-in value. At the end of the day, we're going to buy your car at a wholesale pricing because we're in a profit business and we have to recondition it and get it prepared to resell to make a profit. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, we're in a profit business, we're in a community, and we got to make profit so that we can support this community and support our people and be a thriving business. That's important for everybody for us to be that way. So obviously that's our business model, but a lot of times I talk to people and they come at me saying, well, I'm going to sell my car myself. I said, that's great, but let me at least tell you what I'll pay you for it today. And at least I'm able to tell you that figure. And a lot of times it's a lot more than they realize because used car values are at an all-time high. The used car market is growing. There's more competitors in it, so we have to fight more for inventory. And so what happens there? It's supply and demand. As supply lowers, demand raises, and your value goes up. So I would just ask that you at least let us have a shot at telling you what it's worth. It doesn't cost you anything, and it may surprise you. Equipment makes a big difference in our business. So if you've got a car with a sunroof versus a car without a sunroof, I know I don't use a sunroof much, but I will tell you a sunroof is worth a lot of money. People, as we call them, there's all kind of nicknames for sunroofs, but people don't want a slick top. They want a sunroof, and I promise you they probably will use their sunroof very rarely, but it makes a difference in the value of a car. So the way your car is equipped, and I tell people when they're buying the next car, even if you don't need the DVDs, even if you don't think you need the sunroof, even if you don't think you need the bucket seats or the power third row or the navigation or the backup cameras, that equipment makes a difference when you're coming back into the market. So granted, when you buy the car just because I don't want I don't need all that stuff, when you come back into market, it does make a difference when you have a car that has the right equipment. As far as things that make a difference in condition of your car, tires are a big one. The reason tires are a big one, if we don't have to replace tires on your car, there's 4 of them on the car. And tires nowadays, with the low profiles and the tread depth and how long they last and what they're made of and the ride you get, they're expensive. I mean, tires are $250, $300 a tire a lot of times, especially on these, some higher end cars. So I mean, you times that by 4, and then the mount and balancing, you have alignment. I mean, it's $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 that adds value to your car. Much less you want to drive a car that's got good tires, especially where we live because of the moisture and the stopping power. So tires are important. If you have a cracked windshield, a lot of times check with your insurance company. It's not a comprehensive claim, so it doesn't hurt against your deductible or your premiums. So a lot of times they'll replace the windshield with no deductible, and it doesn't go against your premiums. So you're crazy not to get the windshield replaced, because it will increase your value, because it's one less thing we have to recondition in our reconditioning process. Little things like brakes. If you need brakes and you're going to trade your car in 10,000 miles, change your brakes. It's going to help your value, because it's one less thing we have to do. A car's got to cool. It can really depreciate the value of a car if it doesn't have hot air. So making sure that I'll tell you, AC systems are very complicated. And I say complicated is they have a lot of pieces to them. And so making sure that you really take care of your air conditioning and do the proper service on your AC units, filters, other services that we do to make sure that to contain and take care of the AC system is critical, because once AC systems go out, they're kind of like domino effects. And so making sure when you come to market with that car and you bring it to us, that AC working is a huge deal, because if it's not, it's really, it's just a little unknown of what it takes to fix it. And so that can affect your value, because we're kind of taking a stab in the dark. So heating, AC, critical element to make sure that you stay on top of and that you take care of throughout the ownership of your vehicle. Dents and dings, I will say we all get the little dings, we all get the little chips, we all get the little scratches in the parking lots of the school or the grocery store or church or wherever it may be. Having some people fix those, it's pretty inexpensive to get those fixed, whether it's a dent guy or whether it's a paint guy, which we offer all those services and can certainly take care of that for you at a reduced rate. Those things help you when you come in and trade your car. Having your car detailed, having it cleaned can make a difference. Now, we have a detail center, and we're going to clean that car regardless of how you bring it to us. But there is a little bit of psychology put in that. So if we get in a clean car and it smells good and it feels good, sometimes we're like, man, this is a nice car. It just, hey, the world's all about psychology. And so, take advantage of that. And so some little tidbits, get your car detailed maybe before you look at it, getting it traded, which we can help you with that. And then also those little dents and scratches, maybe getting an annual wax buff job can help with a lot of those surface scratches too. When we have a car that's taken care of, I get people that call me all the time that say, hey, I just want the little grandmother's car that went to the store and went to church every day. That's the car I want, just the little grandma's car that traded in. Well, I guess my question goes is, why do you want that car? And so the answer that comes to my head is, because it was taken care of. It was babied. That she did every little thing, and it wasn't rode hard, and it wasn't, it was probably stored in a little garage, and it was barely used. And so our perception is that car is going to be a better car long term. Well, control what you have right now and create your car being the little grandma car, because there's a story there. And good news is nowadays we can take your story and we can put it on the new car, and people will appreciate the story and they will pay more for that car. And so every little grandma car we can get, we'll pay more money for sure. But we just have to be able to prove that it's the little grandmother car. You hear the people that say, hey, I got a bunch of miles on my car, but they're highway miles. They're all highway miles. I don't know how to prove that. Everyone says it, but I don't know how to really prove it. But there are things you can do now to prove that. Make sure that you're doing the preventative maintenance, saying, I have every service record possible on this vehicle. I've got it documented here in this book. I've got it in the system. Here's the booklet. Man, that is power. That is worth some money to us for the next go round. So I hope that makes sense. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but it's so funny how everybody wants the little grandma's car that goes to church and goes to the grocery store. So we're trying to find every one of those cars possible and then make sure that we know the story so that we can tell it to the next customer. So certainly a little tidbit information to help you before you go to market with your car.